Whispers from Willow Creek. The Return, translated. The town of Willow Creek, Maine, had always been a quiet place. An old church, a bakery that smelled like cinnamon every morning, and streets everyone knew by heart. But everything changed the day Emily Maynard returned, after 18 long years. Once, she had been the town's golden girl, smart, kind, destined to be a journalist. But at 17, she vanished. Some said she ran away with a boy. Others believed she'd been kidnapped. Officially, she was listed as missing. Now, at 35, with a sharp haircut, a leather jacket, and a cold stare, she stood once again in front of her childhood home, long abandoned. The wooden mailbox still bore the name, Maynard. News of her return spread within the hour. At Molly's corner store, people whispered, "Is it really her?" An elderly farmer asked. "She looks like she walked out of a movie, but there's something haunting in her eyes," said the shop clerk. Emily didn't visit old friends. She didn't go to the mayor, who had known her since she was a girl. Instead, she went to the local archives. With a calm voice, she demanded access to files from 2007. "I need to know who covered up my brother's murder," she said flatly. "But your brother, they said he died in a car crash," the archivist whispered. "No, he was murdered, and I know who did it. I didn't come back for nostalgia." From that moment on, the silence of Willow Creek was never the same. Shadows in the attic. Emily didn't sleep that night. Inside her family's dusty house, she lit only one lamp in the hallway and climbed to the attic, the place where, as kids, she and her brother Michael would hide and whisper secrets when their parents fought. The wooden floor creaked beneath her boots. Cobwebs clung to the rafters. But something in the far corner drew her attention. An old wooden chest, locked with rusted hinges. She took a crowbar from the basement and forced it open. Inside, a bundle of letters, dated just months before Michael's accident. A photograph, Michael standing next to a man Emily didn't recognize, in front of a black car with government plates. And a cassette tape labeled, "If anything happens to me." Emily's heart pounded. She didn't remember her brother ever owning a tape recorder. She found an old player in the closet and slid the tape in. Michael's voice crackled to life. "Em, if you're hearing this, something went wrong. That night, at the pier, I saw something I wasn't supposed to. I think they know. I think they're coming." Static. It's connected to that senator from Boston, Preston. The money, the trucks, it's all real. If I disappear, don't let them lie. Don't let them win. Emily clenched her fists. Senator William Preston, now a national figure with presidential ambitions. She had a name, she had a tape, and she had nothing left to lose. The storm outside howled louder. But inside, Emily Maynard's mission had just begun. Whispers from Willow Creek. The man in the shadows. Emily didn't wait for dawn. She put on her jacket, tucked the cassette in her pocket, and drove her dusty Chevy down to the only place that still had working public records, the Willow Creek Library. It opened at 7 a.m., but someone was already there. He was tall, dressed in a dark wool coat, standing beside the library steps with a steaming cup of coffee in his hand. His eyes followed Emily as she parked and stepped out. "You're up early," he said, smiling. Emily narrowed her eyes. "Do I know you?" He didn't answer immediately. "I'm Special Agent Nolan Graves. FBI. I heard you were back, and I didn't tell anyone." "So how'd you know?" she shot back. Graves raised an eyebrow. "Because Michael Maynard was one of ours." Emily froze. "That's impossible." He was 17. Graves nodded slowly. "He was a junior informant, recruited by another agent during a summer internship. We didn't know how deep he'd gotten until it was too late." Emily stepped back. Her mind reeled. The photograph, the cassette, it all started clicking into place. Graves looked around and lowered his voice. "If you really want to find out what happened to your brother, you're going to need more than that tape. You'll need what's in the archive room 12B. "There is no room 12B, Emily said, suspicious. Graves gave a tired smile. "That's what they want you to think. Room 12B. Emily followed Agent Graves through the back entrance of the Willow Creek Library. Past the children's section, behind a supply closet, he pressed a hidden switch beneath a fire extinguisher. The wall gave a low mechanical hum and slid open. A narrow staircase led underground. This was part of a Cold War-era municipal bunker, he explained. The FBI took over the lower levels in the late 90s when corruption cases started surfacing across New England. Room 12B wasn't much, steel door, flickering fluorescent light. But inside, files, photographs, microfilm reels, redacted documents, and a single metal case with Maynard stamped on top. Emily opened it with shaking hands. Inside were field notes, Michael's handwriting describing cargo trucks, coded payments, and late-night peer exchanges involving Senator William Preston's aides. There was also a key, unlabeled old brass. Graves leaned in. That key doesn't belong to this room. Michael was onto something bigger, and you might be the last one who can finish it. The first threat. That night, someone broke into Emily's house. She had installed a small motion sensor near the back porch. At 2:41 a.m., it buzzed. She grabbed her late father's pistol and crept downstairs. A figure stood in the kitchen, dressed in black, rifling through drawers. "Looking for the tape?" she shouted. The intruder froze, then lunged. They fought violently. Emily smashed a lamp over his back before he fled through the side door. In his haste, he dropped a burner phone. On its cracked screen was a single message. "Find a sister. Get the key. Do not fail." Emily's blood ran cold. They knew she was digging. The black car. The next morning, Graves met her at the diner. "They're watching you now," he said without greeting. "Then let them," Emily replied, sliding the burner phone across the table. Graves examined it. Encrypted. Government grade. Someone high up is pulling strings. Outside, across the street, a black SUV idled for hours. Windows tinted. No plates. It wasn't until Emily stepped outside that it drove away. Unmarked envelope. At the library the next day, Emily received an unmarked envelope. Inside was a photograph of her as a teenager, sitting at the docks with Michael, smiling. The photo had never been published or shared. On the back, in shaky handwriting, they lied about Michael. "Meet me tonight. Alone. Pier 13. Midnight." Graves warned against it. But Emily didn't listen. She had to know. The pier. The wind howled as Emily stepped on a Pier 13. A single figure waited by the edge, hunched under a coat and hat. "You knew Michael?" she asked. The figure nodded. It was a woman, older, face scarred. Her name was Rosa Velasquez, once an undercover agent who had vanished in 2008. "Michael saved my life," she whispered. "He warned me before Preston's men found me. I've been in hiding ever since." Rosa handed Emily a flash drive. "This has recordings. From the pier. Names, dates, codes. But you'll need a decryption key." Michael hid it in the place he called Echo Chamber. "What is that?" Emily asked. Rosa's eyes welled up. "Your treehouse." Echo Chamber. The treehouse still stood in the woods behind her childhood home. It was rotting, moss-covered, but the wooden planks were intact. Emily climbed inside. Everything was as they'd left it: graffiti, comic book pages, an old toy phone. Inside the phone's battery compartment, she found it, a silver USB stick with a carved letter E. She inserted it into her laptop. The drive whirred to life. Dozens of files, all encrypted, popped up. One folder stood out. "If lost, Emily only." She clicked. Voices from the past. Inside the folder were audio recordings. Michael's voice, secretly taping conversations between government officials. One file labeled doc_conversation_0421 included a clear voice. "Preston wants the goods moved before the audit. I don't care how many people we have to pay off." Another voice replied. "And the kid? Maynard. If he talks, we bury him." Emily slammed her laptop shut, her hands trembling. Now it wasn't just a theory. It was proof. The safe house. Graves moved Emily to a safe house in a remote cabin in the Pine Valley woods. There, they began cataloging everything. Michael's files, the recordings, Rosa's flash drive. They created a wall of connections. Preston, black market trade routes, bribes, assassinations disguised as accidents. Emily finally felt she was fighting for something real. But that night, she heard a sound in the woods. A single distant gunshot. The red van. In the morning, Rosa was gone. The only thing left was a trail of blood and a tire track. red paint flakes embedded in the bark of a nearby tree. Emily followed the trail until it vanished near the main road. Then she saw it, a traffic cam pole, rusted but still there. If it was working, it might have captured the van. Help from the inside. Graves called in a favor from a contact inside Homeland Security. Agent Juno Lee, a cyber analyst with a rebellious streak. Juno met them that night at an abandoned school. This stuff is high grade, she said after seeing the files. Preston isn't just corrupt, he's built a shadow government. Juno hacked into the traffic cam server. The image was blurry, but clear enough, a red van and a face in the window. Rose's mouth was gagged. She was alive. The journalist. Emily turned to someone unexpected for help. Trevor Keane, a disgraced former journalist who'd once been Michael's mentor. He now ran a conspiracy blog, but had sources the mainstream media couldn't touch. When he saw the files, Trevor's eyes widened. This is Pulitzer level. No, this is assassination level. If you go public, they'll kill you. Emily met his gaze. Then we go smarter. We go deeper. Preston's rise. Senator Preston was on national TV now, launching his presidential campaign. A new dawn for America, he said, smiling. Transparency, honor, legacy punto. Behind that smile was a man who'd ordered murders. Emily watched from the cabin, fists clenched. Graves said quietly, "We need to bring him down." But not with a headline. With a tribunal. The poison letter. A week later, Emily received a letter addressed in Michael's handwriting. Inside, a hidden compartment containing a powdery substance and a warning. Not everything is as it seems. Trust no one, even them. She had it tested. It was a rare neurotoxin. Military grade. Someone was sending a message. Or someone had intercepted Michael before his final letter. But who? Hidden tunnels. Old Town records revealed something else. Tunnels under Willow Creek, once used for smuggling during Prohibition. Michael had marked one of them in his notebook with an X. Graves, Emily, and Juno explored it by flashlight. They found crates, sealed, unmarked, heavy. Inside, hard drives, weapons cache, all labeled in Latin. And one envelope, in case of betrayal. Ghost file. The envelope contained a hard drive with a single video. It showed Preston, decades ago, handing off a suitcase to a uniformed man in a private airfield. But the audio was corrupted. Juno said it had been tampered with recently. Only someone with deep clearance could have done that. Emily whispered, "There's a mole." The mole. They laid a trap. Juno sent out a decoy message through an encrypted channel, a fake location where Emily would supposedly be alone. Hours later, they intercepted a drone, armed, hovering above that exact spot. They tracked the signal back to someone inside the FBI. Graves looked stunned. "It's someone from my own team." Blood on the badge. The traitor was revealed. Agent Curtis Vale, Graves' former partner. Emily confronted him in the woods near Willow Creek. "Why, Curtis? Michael trusted you. He knew too much," Vale spat. "And so do you." They fought. Emily was wounded, but Graves arrived in time, pinning Vale to the ground. The truth was unraveling fast, but the deeper they went, the more dangerous it became. And behind it all, Preston still smiled for the cameras. Unlikely alliance. Agent Vale was taken into federal custody, but not before whispering one last phrase to Emily. "You think Preston's the monster. You haven't met the one behind him." These words echoed in her mind for days. If Preston wasn't the top, who was? Emily, Graves, and Juno analyzed Vale's digital records. Hidden in an encrypted folder, they found a document labeled Umbra Protocol. The file referenced a black-budget operation, sanctioned off the books, tied to an unknown figure named C. Marlowe. Trevor Keane had heard the name. Codename used in the early 2000s, he explained. Connected to secret prisons, unauthorized surveillance, drone strikes. Emily stared at the screen. Preston wasn't just a criminal. He was a puppet, the Shadow Network. Juno tracked down the server behind Umbra Protocol to a cold storage facility in Langley, Virginia, off-limits to civilians. To break in, they needed help from a ghost. Enter Riley Knox, a former CIA operative turned fugitive, known for exposing surveillance abuse 10 years ago. They found him in a desert shack in Arizona, paranoid and bitter. "You're poking a hornet's nest," he said. But I like Hornets. Knox agreed to help, for a price, immunity, and a voice. Langley heist. With Knox leading, the team faked security badges, replicated heat signatures, and created a diversion in the Langley mainframe. Emily and Juno made it inside. Barely. The Umbra drive was buried beneath layers of outdated, disconnected servers. They extracted it. Alarms rang. Knox bought them time, slamming an EMP pulse that fried half the perimeter grid. They escaped, but barely. The kill order. Hours later, a contract was issued on Emily Maynard's name. Price, $5 million. Methods, creative. Emily was now being hunted not just by rogue officials, but international mercenaries. Graves changed their location again, this time to a hidden bunker beneath an old ranger station in Vermont. Trevor published hints of the Umbra Protocol, drawing attention to the blog, spiking traffic. The world was beginning to notice. Ghost broadcast. Using the drive, Juno hacked a satellite signal to send out a hidden message within a pirate radio station. The message: Whistleblower speaks. Umbra Protocol is real. Proof inside. It lasted 42 seconds. Just enough to cause a media storm. Senator Preston called it fabrication. Emily knew they were getting close. The trap in D.C. The team arranged a meeting with a whistleblower who claimed to have worked under Marlowe. Location: an abandoned observatory in Washington, D.C. But it was a setup. Snipers, drones, smoke bombs. Emily barely escaped through underground tunnels. Graves was wounded, and Juno was captured. Hostage. Juno was kept in a black site, disguised as a FEMA emergency station. There, she was interrogated by a masked man with a British accent. He wanted names. Access. The backup drive. She gave him nothing, but she carved a message into the wall behind her bed. He still has the key. The senator's son. While searching for leverage, Emily discovered something shocking. Senator Preston had an estranged son, Elias Preston, once a war hero, now reclusive and possibly disillusioned. She found him in Alaska, living in a shack by the sea. When Emily showed him the files, he went pale. My father, he used me, funded ops through my deployment. When I learned the truth, I ran. He handed her a thumb drive. This is my proof. Use it wisely. Secret testimony. Using Elias's drive, Trevor released a new expose on the senator's war, revealing offshore accounts, arms deals, and disappearances. The public was outraged. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended globally. A Senate Oversight Committee was forced to call Preston for testimony. But Preston denied everything. Under oath, returned to Willow Creek. Emily returned to Willow Creek to bury a time capsule for Michael, now filled with his evidence, letters, and hope. A symbolic act, but also a decoy. She left a duplicate tape inside. Hidden cameras watched from nearby trees. That night, 2 men tried to dig it up. One of them was wearing an FBI badge. The black letter. Graves received a black envelope with a wax seal. Inside, coordinates and a phrase. You've been looking in the wrong direction. CM is closer than you think. The location led them to a vineyard in upstate New York. There, in a secret basement, they found C. Marlowe's personal journal. He wasn't just a ghost. He was a legacy agent, buried and used by multiple administrations. The face of evil. Surveillance footage from a vineyard showed a recent visitor, Vice President Diane Holloway. Emily couldn't believe it. Holloway had campaigned on transparency and justice. But now it seemed she was the architect of Umbra and Preston's handler. Infiltration. Emily and Knox plotted an infiltration of Holloway's private campaign retreat. Dressed as servers, they bugged her office and downloaded footage from internal servers. The files revealed military contracts, assassinations, and drone strikes ordered without presidential approval. Umbra wasn't about money. It was about control. Enemy within. Suddenly, Trevor disappeared. His blog went offline. His apartment, emptied. No signs of struggle. One message was left on a mirror. Told you they'd come. Finish this without me. Emily felt guilt twist in her chest. Trevor had paid the price. Trial or fire. The Senate began holding hearings on Preston. But Holloway moved quickly, cutting deals, manipulating allies, burying evidence. Emily went public. She released Michael's full tapes to the press. Protests erupted in D.C., but it wasn't enough. Coup code. Inside Marlowe's journal was a sequence called Protocol Echo, an emergency contingency to bring down a rogue government faction from inside. It required proof of corruption, whistleblower identification, internal DOJ compliance. Juno, now freed in a secret deal, was the missing key. The final upload. The team traveled to Boston, where a data farm, once used by Preston's firms, was still connected to Umbra's internal network. They uploaded the Protocol Echo file. Immediately, alarms went off across D.C. Internal memos, voice logs, transfer records, all became public. Live. Fall of Giants. Holloway was arrested. Preston stepped down. More than 40 officials were named. 15 detained. 6 disappeared. The press called it the Deep Root Purge. Emily was safe. For now. But she knew it wasn't over. The real story. She stood again at Pier 13. The wind the same as that night. The shadows longer. She held Michael's photo in her hands. A new journalist approached her. "Are you the one who brought it all down?" Emily looked away. "No, that was my brother. I just finished what he started." The letter. One final envelope arrived. No name, just a typed letter. "What you did was necessary, but shadows always return. When they do, remember, light begins with truth. CM." Emily folded the letter, tucked it into her jacket, and walked into the morning fog. She wasn't running anymore. She was watching, waiting, ready.